If you're an old-school movie fan, you may have heard of Willis O'Brien, the special effects pioneer behind the original King Kong. He was the guy who basically invented the whole stop-motion process, the guy who gave Harryhausen his start, and in so doing pretty much established the template for an entire genre of movies featuring gigantic monsters on the loose. And yet, he was also a guy who died virtually forgotten by the larger culture, with a whole raft of projects left unproduced or produced in a greatly altered form by other people. Those projects have passed into the realm of legend, and while some of them sound impressive, spend enough time looking through the proposals Obi had put together, and you begin to notice a sameness to them. I'm Tony Frazier, author, blogger, near genius, and this is Hero Go Home Presents, a special Halloween edition, Willis O'Brien's One Idea. Willis O'Brien was one of the great pioneers of cinema. He made his first big splash with his short silent film The Dinosaur and the Missing Link in 1915, which pretty much introduced American audiences to the idea of stop-motion animation. He came to prominence with the silent feature The Lost World, based on the Arthur Conan Doyle novel, and perfected his art with 1933's massive hit King Kong, although he did more mundane types of effects work for movies like The Last Days of Pompeii and The Dancing Pirate, and, if the rumors are to be believed, this shot in Citizen Kane. Animation was always his first love, and he was constantly trying to develop new projects that would feature it. And when I say constantly, I mean that there's a long list of projects that he attempted to get made that either never went anywhere or got altered beyond recognition. His design and storyboard sketches are all over the internet if you want to look for them. But if you review both the movies that he did make and the movies he wanted to make but that never happened, you begin to notice a lot of striking similarities. It's almost as if Willis O'Brien had one story template that he used and just filled in the blanks, like a Mad Lib, but with special effects. So first, a quick review of O'Brien's career. After his first few self-made shorts, he teamed up with producer Herbert Dawley for The Ghost of Slumber Mountain, considered the first film to combine stop-motion with live action. In 1925, O'Brien animated the Dinosaurs for his first feature, The Lost World, based on the book by Arthur Conan Doyle about a group of explorers who discover a lost plateau in South America where dinosaurs still live. They bring a dinosaur back to civilization to exhibit it, and disaster ensues. The film was not only a big success in its day, but more recently received an homage in Pixar's Up. After The Lost World, O'Brien began work on a new film about men who discover a lost island where dinosaurs still live. The film was to be called Creation. A script was written, models were built, and tests were filmed, but the project fell through. All was not lost, however, because O'Brien used some of the same models and concepts for a film he made with producers Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack about a giant gorilla. That film was, of course, King Kong, and if you're not familiar with the premise, it was about people who find a lost island where dinosaurs still live, and also a giant gorilla. They bring the gorilla back to civilization to exhibit it, and disaster ensues. The film was a huge success, so big that they rushed out a sequel complete with new monsters and all-new animation within 6 months. Son of Kong was a critical and box office failure, and was also marred by tragedy in O'Brien's personal life. It was 16 years before O'Brien could make another one of his stop-motion extravaganzas. That next big animation feature was Mighty Joe Young, in which a nightclub promoter travels with some cowboys to Africa where they encounter a giant gorilla named Joe. They lasso him, bring him back to civilization to exhibit him, and disaster ensues, although he makes good in the end. By this time, O'Brien was pretty much just designing the effects and leaving the animation to assistants like Ray Harryhausen and Pete Peterson. And that was the last major Hollywood production for O'Brien, other than some brief sequences in movies like This Is Cinerama and The Animal World. His last 2 movies were low-budget independents, animated once again by Pete Peterson. The Black Scorpion was about men who discover a lost underground world in Mexico, full of prehistoric insects who make their way to the surface, where disaster ensues. The Giant Behemoth is about a prehistoric sea monster who rampages through London. Both films are notorious for reusing animation shots multiple times to stretch the budget and the running time. So that's basically it for the major projects in O'Brien's career, and if you've been paying attention, you've noticed several recurring tropes. The protagonists find a secret or lost place, an island, a plateau, an underground cavern, that is populated by gigantic creatures, usually including dinosaurs. One creature in particular emerges as the most powerful or aggressive or dominant. They capture that creature, transport it back to civilization for a public exhibition. But the creature escapes and wreaks havoc, and they are forced to kill it. Not every picture contains every element, but put them all together and a definite pattern emerges. That pattern is even more clear when you consider the many projects O'Brien didn't get to make. War Eagles was about the discovery of a lost island where dinosaurs still live, hunted by a tribe of lost Vikings who ride on giant eagles. The finale would have pitted the eagles against German zeppelins. Gwanji was about cowboys discovering a secret valley where dinosaurs still live. They lasso one, bring it back to civilization, and put it on display, only to have it break loose and create havoc. Though O'Brien never made the film, Ray Harryhausen did animate his own version in 1969's The Valley of Gwanji. Another of O'Brien's projects, featuring cowboys versus dinosaurs, was made by Edward Nasser under the title The Beast of Hollow Mountain, and yet another one was made as the puppet-animated feature Emilio and His Magical Bull, which features a fight between said bull and a dinosaur. The confusingly titled Baboon, A Tale of the Yeti, featured the discovery of a Yeti within a secret city in the Himalayas, with the big twist that the creature escapes while it's being transported to civilization for exhibition rather than while it's on stage. It was to climax with the Yeti dying while fighting a pod of killer whales. The last of the Ososi Papu would have also featured an escape on the way back to civilization. The title creature, which resembled a giant Gila monster crossed with a bear, would encounter cowboys reminiscent of Mighty Joe Young and Gwanji, and also a film crew like the one from King Kong. Perhaps most heartbreaking for fans of O'Brien's work is the story of King Kong vs. Frankenstein, also known as King Kong vs. Prometheus. Dr. Frankenstein's descendant has created a gigantic humanoid in a remote part of Africa. The creature is brought to America and exhibited alongside King Kong, who somehow survived his fall from the Empire State Building. And the results are predictable. The twist here is that producer John Beck thought enough of the concept that he told O'Brien that he would try to raise the money to make it. Sometime later, O'Brien learned through the trades that Beck had signed a deal with Toho Studios to make King Kong vs. Godzilla, in which Kong would be played by a man in a suit. King Kong vs. Frankenstein never got made. Now, to be fair, not all of O'Brien's projects used this template, but an awful lot of them did, and it's not hard to see why. These films were conceived as showcases for special effects, first and foremost, and not as stories per se. And if you've got a successful formula for including those special effects in a film, which, just judging by King Kong, this formula was successful, then why not use it all the time and just plug in different kinds of creatures? And although it may seem like I'm taking the piss out of O'Brien here, understand that I have been a fan of O'Brien's work since I was a kid of 10 or 11 years old. And I'm a little bit heartbroken that movies like War Eagles and King Kong vs. Frankenstein never got made. Even a film like Valley of Gwanji, which was made by Harryhausen and seems to be pretty true to his sketches and storyboards, I still would rather have an O'Brien version and a Harryhausen version to compare and contrast. I've said it before in my blog, and I may make an entire video about it one day, but being a fan of science fiction and fantasy, back in the day and even now, is a little bit like panning for gold. You've got to dig through a lot of dirt to find the shiny bits. And for a kid like me, O'Brien's work definitely constituted the shiny bits in a gigantic mountain of dirt. I'll always treasure the work he did, but I'll also always be sad that he never got the chance to make more. And that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this special Halloween edition of Hero Go Home Presents. If so, please like and subscribe, comment below, tell a friend, all the things. Also, my next video is probably going to be about Batman, because I had a little poll on my Facebook page. If you would like to vote on future content like this, and if you would like to help me make these videos, please consider contributing to my Patreon. The link should be on the screen now. From all of us here at Hero Go Home Presents, which is, basically just me, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.